All right, welcome. In this video, we're going to be working Algebra 2 Quiz 1.2, and I'm going to be working for both Form A and Form B, and if you're looking just for Form B, you can look down in the description. I think there will be a little link that'll take you just to where to start there. Okay, but I'm going to do Form A first. So we're going to be looking at a line that passes through, I even think I will sketch you the graph. X equals 1, y equals 3, x equals 5, y equals 0. Okay. Not a great sketch, right? Might not be to scale, but I think this is going to get the job done. Okay, and we know that there's only one line that can pass through these 2 points. Right? So that's a picture of the line. And we're going to eventually write an equation for it in slope-intercept form, so maybe that'll make sense with the picture we've drawn. With the slope, we know that we've got a slope formula. It's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And I'm going to just label these, pardon me, x1, y1, x2, y2, right? First point, second point. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, that slope is going to be y2, 0, minus y1, 3, divided by x2, 5, minus x1, 1. And so I'm going to say that that's negative 3 over 4. Then we will write an equation for line L in slope-intercept form. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this because I've realized that there are some people in my class that there's like 2 approaches going on. Okay, me personally, I know I've got a point. I've got a slope. That's negative 3 over 4. So I can write an equation using point-slope form. Okay, that's y minus the y coordinate of the point I know is on the line is equal to the slope times x minus the x coordinate. Okay? And you could have chosen 5, 0 if you liked as well. That might have actually been smart. But I didn't, and it'll work out. What I'm saying is it'll work out the same way. Okay? So if I'm going for slope-intercept, that's y equals mx plus b. So I can distribute. So negative 3/4 of x and negative 3/4 of negative 1 would be plus 3/4. And so then I'd be adding 3 to both sides to solve for y, and y would be, okay, well, 3 is 12 over 4, right? And if I add 3 over 4, that would be 15/4. But I think that there is a, maybe a little easier way to do this. We say, okay, hey, I know I'm looking for slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. Okay? I've found the value of m already. And then what we can do is we can choose either of the 2 points and plug them in for x and y to find the value of b. And I kind of like that strategy. So maybe this time I'll use x equals 5 and y equals 0. So y equals 0 when x equals 5. Okay. So I'm plugged in on x and y. I'm going to start to solve at b. So 0, that's 5 over 1, right? So this would be negative 15 over 4 plus b. Okay, well, if I think about what number do I have to add to negative 15/4 to get 0, well, it's going to be positive 15/4. Okay, so I get b equals positive 15 over 4. Either way, our slope-intercept equation is going to be y equals negative 3/4 x plus 15 over 4. Moving forward, on Form B, I'm probably just going to do this version. I think that might be the more natural way. This is the way I did it because, in calculus, we are frequently writing the equation of lines. You've got older siblings in my calculus class. They are actively writing equations of lines right now in my class. We just use point-slope form, and we just kind of walk away at that point. Okay, we don't ever go this far because we don't need to. But I could see how at the Algebra 2 level that this might be the easier way to go in y'all's mind. So now we're going to talk about a line where, and just to go back, it does make sense that this would be negative 3/4 x plus 15/4. Kind of looks like it. It's got a positive y-intercept and a negative slope. So, it's pretty good. Okay, all right. For me, I'm going to just solve for for y in terms of x, isolate y. So I'm going to do that by subtracting 3x from both sides. And then dividing by negative 5. Dividing everything by negative 5. So negative 3 over negative 5 is positive 3 over 5. And then 10 divided by negative 5 would be negative 2. Right? We've got to divide everything. Okay, so I know that the slope is going to be 3/5. Okay. And then, okay, well, we already know that the y-intercept is going to be where x is 0 and y is going to be negative 2. But I'm going to go back to the original equation, right? Because if they just asked us for the intercepts, we would not need to work around for y in terms of x. So I know you can't see it, but it's 3x minus 5y equals 10. Okay. If I want the x-intercept, that's where y equals 0. Okay, so that's 3x minus 5 times 0 is going to be 0, is going to equal 10, and x equals 10/3. Okay. And then for the y-intercept, I'm going to say that's where x equals 0. So 3 times 0 is going to be 0, minus 5y equals positive 10. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. And then I'll have 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Okay. One thing I didn't notice it saying, and I don't think we graded aggressively on this, and probably at the beginning of the school year I wouldn't grade aggressively on this, but it did say find the coordinates. So that's going to be, okay, the x-intercept, it's going to be where x is 10/3 and y is 0. These are coordinates. And then for the y-intercept, x is 0 and y is negative 2. But that said, I probably wouldn't get into, even if we were going to be grading strictly on this, I still think that the work in black is good enough because it does explicitly say what the x and y coordinates of each point are. It's just not necessarily listed as an ordered pair, and that's okay, right? As long as we're saying what x and y both are when they're asking for coordinates, that's coordinates. Right, so y equals 3x plus p passes through 2, negative 1. What's the value of p? We can do this. So y equals 3x plus p, x equals 2, y equals negative 1. So I just plug in negative 1 for y, 2 for x. Maybe I'll subtract 6 from both sides, and I will get that p equals negative 7. Okay, that's the answer. That's all we can do. Right? Now we're going to write an equation for y in terms of x. Okay? So I'm going to kind of start off with y equals mx plus b, because that's going to be the easiest to write, especially if you can see the y-intercept, which we can. We can see the y-intercept is 10, so b is going to equal 10. Okay. But I've also got the point, to find the slope, I'm going to need to use this point right here, because it's the one that's sitting on a grid intersection spot. So my 2 points to get the slope, I'm going to need the coordinates. So that's 4 and 16, and 0, 10. Okay, so the slope to me is looking like 10 minus 16, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so that's looking like negative 6 over negative 4 is equal to positive 6 over positive 4. And 6 divided by 4, well, that's going to be 1.5. It's 3 divided by 2, whatever you want to call it. I might call it $1.50 because, it's a cost situation, so I would use decimal. Okay, so, but now that I've got m and now I've got b written all over my hand, I'm going to say, all right, my equation is going to be y equals 1.5x. And then over here, f of x equals px plus 6. Has an x-intercept 2. What's the value of p? Okay, well, x-intercepts 2, that's going to mean x equals 2 when y equals 0. And so now I've got this point. This is very much like this problem up here. It just didn't give you the y coordinate. It did, just in code. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this into the equation, and f of x, that just means y. So 0 equals p times x, that's going to be p times 2 plus 6. And so 0 equals 2p plus 6. We will subtract 6 from both sides. And we will divide both sides by 2. And, whoops, usually been writing the solution in red here. That's p equals -3. All right, that's all for Form A. Hold on to this. Hope I didn't make as many errors I made on the first quiz this unit. And let's move on to Form B. So, find the slope. Okay, slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so this is -3/8. Yeah. All right, now we're going to write an equation for line L in slope-intercept form. And we know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And we already know the value of m because, well, we just did that in number 1. So, okay, now I'm going to choose one of these points. Now I'm going to choose 7, 0 because I like to work with 0. It makes stuff easy. So I'm going to let x equals 7 and y equals 0. Okay. Now, if you had gone with the point x equals -1 and y equals 3 and plugged in on the same equation the same way I'm going to, you get the same thing, right? Provided that you didn't make any arithmetic or algebra errors along the way. Okay, it doesn't matter. I just chose this one because I like to work with 0, right? So I'm going to plug in 0 for y. X is 7/1, so I might write it like that. Because this is interesting. This is -21/8. And -21/8 plus b equals 0, well, that just must mean b equals +21/8. I've got m over there, so I'm ready to write down my equation. Y equals -3/8 x plus 21/8. Okay. Now we've got a line with a standard form equation. 4x minus 5y equals 12. And I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this one a different way. I'm going to do number 4 before I do number 3, right? Because when it's written 4x minus 5y equals 12, that's pretty much exactly what we want. Oh, I see what's going to happen if I do that, though, and that might not be the best thing. I am still going to do number 4 before I do number 3. I'm just going to do number 3 the same way I've been doing it, by solving for y and then just looking at it. So we're going to say, all right, I'm going to copy the equation so I don't have to keep doing that. Okay. For the x-intercept, I'm going to say that's where y equals 0, and I can plug in on that. 4x minus 5 times 0, well, that's minus 0 equals 12. 4x equals 12, that means x has to equal 3. That's when we can solve with our eyes. Y-intercept, that's where x equals 0. Okay. And, okay, so that'll be where 4 times 0 minus 5y equals 12. And then, okay, -5y equals 12. I got to divide by that -5. So y equals 12/5. And, right, because they asked for coordinates, I'm going to say that x-intercept is going to be x equals 3, y equals 0. And then the y-intercept is going to be x equals 0 and y equals -12/5. As for finding the slope, I'm going to just solve for y to make that happen. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And then I'm going to divide both sides by -5. I'm going to divide everything by -5. So I'll have -12/5. That number's familiar because, well, that's good. I saw the y-intercept is -12/5. I'm saying the same thing here. That means I haven't made an error. Or if I have, I've made the same error twice, right? So I'm seeing a slope of 4/5 when I solved for it in slope-intercept form. So I'm just going to say slope equals +4/5. Okay, yeah, and that's all for pencil. We're going to flip over the back here. We're going to say, all right, when we graph this in the xy plane, it passes through -2, 1. What's the value of p? All right, well, we're going to plug in x equals -2 there, and y equals 1 there, and well, it'll be great. Okay, so I'm going to have 1 equals 6 times negative 2 plus p. All right. And then I've got 1 equals negative 12 plus p. And, well, I could add 12 to both sides, or I could think about what I need to add to negative 12 to get 1. Either way, I'm going to get p equals 13. So what I got last time? No, I got negative 7 on the other form. Okay, that's good. All right, now we're going to write an equation for the cost in terms of number of games played on Saturday. I guess the other form was Sunday. And let's see. Okay, I found the point I want to use for the slope. It's here and there. So my 2 points are going to be 418 and 0.8. So I need to compute the slope. It's going to be, you know, I always do y2 minus y1. I'm going to show you can do y1 minus y2, and it's going to be the same thing. 18 minus 8. As long as we're doing y's, difference in y's over difference in x's, and we're consistent about which one we're doing, it does not matter. So I'm going to get 14 over 4. Take a second. Check for reasonableness, right? This is a positive number. This line has a positive slope. Okay, that's a good thing. If you're getting something negative and you're seeing a positive slope, you need to take a second and reconsider, right? So I can reduce this as well. I can divide both of these in half, and that would be 7 halves, right? That's fine. And what was that? Oh, and I'm seeing that the intercept, the y-intercept is y equals 8 when x equals 0. So I've got a slope, I've got an intercept. I'm ready to write an equation for y in terms of x. That means y on one side of the equation, anything involving x is on the other. Okay, so y, and that's slope-intercept form. Y equals 7 halves x plus 8. Okay. Oh, I forgot that this was money. I might have, been better off to say 3.5x plus 8, right? Because that's 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So it appears that like each game is costing $3.50 or something like that. No. Okay, at least I caught it, right? At least I caught the arithmetic error. 18 minus 8 is not 14. That's 10/4. It's like, that seems very expensive per game, even if this is an old problem. 10 divided by 4, that's equal to 2.5. Okay, well, I'm glad I got it. And, or you could write that as 5 halves, and I am, so I don't have to erase all of that. I'm going to turn that into a 5, and now it's right. 5 halves x plus 8. Now the function f is going to be defined by f of x equals px plus 10. P is a constant. X-intercept is 2, so that means y equals 0 when x equals 2. We know f of x, that's at this point in the course just a fancy word for y. So y is equal to 0 when x is equal to 2. So that's going to be 2p. I'm going to solve by subtracting 10 and dividing by 2. So, okay, although on the quiz that would be, I'd be all right if you left it there, right? Because that's the same number. If we were going to simplify it, or this was a multiple choice question and we had to recognize the correct answer, well, we'd have to know that that's -5. Okay, that's all for Form B. That's all for Quiz 1.2. Thanks for watching. Hope it helped.